Hi there. Real quick before we jump into the episode. If you enjoy this episode, or any of the other episodes, be sure to give us a follow or subscribe. It would also be great if you shared it with a friend, or better yet, left a review so others can know how awesome it is. Thanks so much. And now, the episode.
Hey there, Press Starters, and welcome to the Press Start Leadership Podcast, the podcast about game-changing leadership, teaching you how to get the most out of your product and development team and become the leader you were meant to be. Leadership coaching and training for the international game industry professional. Now, let me introduce you to your host, the man, the myth, the legend, Christopher Mifsud.
Hey there, Press Starters, and welcome back to another awesome edition of the Press Start Leadership Podcast. On this week's episode, we'll be discussing keys to leadership communication in the video game industry. How game industry leaders can communicate clearly, concisely, constantly, and consistently to build trust and strengthen studio alignment. Why communication is the foundation of leadership and game development. If there is one skill that has shaped my leadership more than any other throughout my career in the video game industry, it is communication. Not technical mastery, not strategic planning, not creative direction, communication. Clear, reliable communication is the invisible thread holding every game team, production pipeline, and studio culture together. Without it, even the most talented teams struggle. With it, even small teams accomplish incredible things. When I began leading teams, I quickly realized that communication was not just an add-on or a soft skill. It was the backbone of every decision, every milestone, every relationship, and every challenge. Games are built by interdisciplinary teams that rely on each other. Programmers depend on designers. Designers depend on artists. Artists depend on producers. Producers depend on everyone. Without strong communication across disciplines, misalignment spreads. Assumptions grow. Small misunderstandings snowball into missed deadlines, rework, or tension. Early in my leadership career, I made the same mistake many leaders make. I assumed people understood my message simply because I said it. I was enthusiastic. I thought I was being clear. I thought I was over-communicating. In reality, I was communicating in a way that made sense to me, but not always to the team. Game development is complex, and each discipline interprets information differently. I had to learn, sometimes painfully, that effective communication is not measured by how much you speak, but by how well the message lands. Over time, I developed a simple framework that guides how I communicate with my teams and studios. I call it the 4 C's of communication: clear, concise, constant, consistent. These 4 pillars form the foundation of communication that supports healthy team dynamics, effective production, and steady leadership. They reduce confusion, eliminate ambiguity, and cultivate trust. They make teams feel informed, supported, and aligned. They create stability in an industry known for unpredictability. Let us explore each pillar and how to put it into practice. Clear communication, removing ambiguity in a complex industry. Clarity is the most important leadership communication skill. Clarity reduces confusion, increases focus, and saves enormous amounts of time and energy. When communication is unclear in a game studio, it affects every discipline involved. Programmers build the wrong functionality. Artists create assets that do not fit the vision. Designers make assumptions that cause rework. Producers plan around goals no one fully agrees on. The cost of unclear communication is massive. Clear communication means saying exactly what you mean without leaving room for confusion. It requires being specific about expectations, deliverables, timelines, and responsibilities. It also requires explaining why decisions are made so the team understands the reasoning behind the direction. Why clarity matters in game development. Game development is filled with ambiguity by default. There are unknowns, creative decisions, technical challenges, and changing requirements. Because uncertainty already exists naturally, leaders cannot afford to add unnecessary ambiguity on top of it. Clear communication helps teams understand goals, prioritize correctly, reduce rework, make better decisions, move quickly with confidence, ask the right questions before taking action. The clearer you are, the faster your team can move. Common clarity mistakes leaders make. Assuming the team understands context you have, but they do not. Using vague language like soon, eventually, or later on. Not defining decision ownership. Not explaining why a decision matters. Giving too many details without prioritization. Assuming one message fits all disciplines. When clarity is missing, people fill the gaps themselves. Every person fills those gaps differently. How to improve clarity. Clear communication is a skill that can be practiced. And here are strategies that have helped me. Actionable steps for clear communication. State the goal in one sentence. If you cannot summarize the goal simply, you may not fully understand it yet. Define who owns what. Make responsibilities explicit to remove confusion. Clarify timelines. Instead of, get this to me soon, say, please deliver this by Friday at 3 p.m. Separate facts from assumptions. Teams often act on assumptions unless you clarify what is confirmed and what is not. Explain the why behind decisions. When the team understands reasoning, they align more quickly and push back constructively. End meetings with a recap. Summaries ensure everyone walks out with the same understanding. Clarity is kindness. Clarity is leadership. When your message is clear, your team moves confidently. Concise communication. Respecting time and cognitive load. Concise communication means delivering your message in the simplest, most direct way possible without losing meaning. In a game studio, everyone is busy. Teams juggle tasks, juggle disciplines, and juggle shifting priorities. Long, complicated messages drain time and energy. Concise communication signals that you respect the team's attention. Why conciseness matters. Game development requires fast decision-making. Teams need quick, effective updates. When communication drags on or becomes overly detailed, people get lost. The core message gets buried under the words. Concise communication saves time, makes meetings more efficient, reduces confusion, helps people retain information, improves decision quality, makes leadership appear confident and sharp. Concise communication does not mean being cold or abrupt. It means being effective. Signs your communication is not concise. People ask you to repeat the same message. Your meetings feel longer than necessary. Your emails or chats get skimmed rather than read. Team members seem confused even after explanations. You feel the need to re-explain often. Conciseness is not about cutting information. It's about sharpening it. How to communicate concisely. Conciseness begins before you speak. It requires preparation. It requires understanding the message at its core. Actionable steps for concise communication. Start with the headline. Begin with the main point, then give supporting details only if needed. Use the rule of 3. Limit lists or instructions to 3 key points for clarity. Remove filler language. Drop qualifiers like sort of, kind of, basically. Keep messages short and focused. If it does not contribute to understanding, remove it. Ask yourself what the team truly needs to know. Not everything is necessary. Filter information through relevance. Use simple frameworks like context, decision, impact. This structure helps teams follow your thought process. Concise communication shows that you value efficiency, clarity, and respect for others. Constant communication. Keeping teams connected and aligned. Constant communication is ongoing communication. It does not mean overwhelming the team with nonstop updates. It means communicating regularly enough that people feel informed, supported, and aligned. Silence from leadership is dangerous. Silence creates anxiety. People begin to speculate, imagine worst-case scenarios, or assume decisions are being made without them. Constant communication prevents confusion, fear, and misalignment. Why constant communication matters. The game industry is always moving. Priorities shift, milestones change, blockers appear. Features evolve. If leaders do not communicate frequently, teams feel lost or disconnected. Constant communication helps teams stay aligned, understand priorities, feel confident in direction, avoid surprises, build trust and leadership. Teams do not need a constant stream of information. They need predictable and reliable communication. What constant communication is not? It is not micromanagement, oversharing, flooding inboxes, hovering, distracting people from work. Constant communication is simply regular communication without long gaps. How to practice constant communication. Communication habits matter. Leadership communication thrives on rhythm, cadence, and repetition. Actionable steps for constant communication. Hold weekly team updates. Share progress, priorities, challenges, and wins. Share decisions as soon as they are made. Do not wait until later. Transparency builds trust. Provide regular written summaries. Not everyone attends every meeting. Keep the entire team informed. Use consistent communication channels. Teams should know where to check for updates. Encourage questions and feedback. Constant communication is two-way, not one-way. Be visible. Even quick check-ins build presence and reduce uncertainty. Constant communication makes teams feel included rather than abandoned. Consistent communication. Building trust through predictability. Consistency is where leadership communication earns or loses trust. If you are not consistent, your communication becomes noise. If your messages shift constantly, your team becomes confused. If your actions contradict your words, your credibility disappears. Consistent communication means your message stays aligned over time. Your tone is steady, your expectations do not fluctuate wildly, your decisions follow a clear logic, your presence is reliable. Why consistency matters. Consistency creates trust, stability, predictability, confidence, accountability, respect. Teams rely on your consistency to feel safe. They need to know what to expect from you. Signs of inconsistent communication. You say one thing today and something different next week. You change priorities without explanation. Your leadership team sends mixed messages. Your tone shifts unpredictably. Your expectations vary from person to person. People constantly ask for clarification. Inconsistency causes uncertainty. Uncertainty slows teams down. How to ensure consistent communication. Consistency requires intentional effort. It requires self-awareness. It requires discipline. Actionable steps for consistent communication. Repeat core messages regularly. Repetition builds alignment across teams. Align with your leadership peers. Ensure messaging is unified across the studio. Review what you communicate recently. Make sure your new message aligns with earlier communication. Correct inconsistencies quickly. If you contradict yourself, acknowledge it and clarify. Communicate expectations early and rarely change them. Stability builds confidence. Match your actions to your words. Teams trust what you do more than what you say. Consistent communication makes leadership reliable and trustworthy. Bring the 4 C's together. A framework for studio leaders. Clear, concise, constant, and consistent communication works best when the 4 pillars are used together. They are interconnected. They reinforce each other. When applied as a unified approach, they create a communication culture that supports the entire studio. Here's how the 4 pillars work together in practice. Clear and concise together. Clear communication prevents confusion. Concise communication prevents overload. Together, they ensure the team receives the right message in the right amount of words. Constant and consistent together. Constant communication builds connection. Consistent communication builds trust. Together, they ensure the team always knows what to expect and where to focus. How to apply all 4 pillars in common leadership scenarios. Sprint planning. Be clear about goals, concise with instructions, constant in follow-ups, and consistent in expectations. Milestone reviews. Clear about deliverables, concise with feedback, constant in sharing updates, consistent in evaluation criteria. Team meetings. Clear agendas, concise presentations, constant weekly cadence, consistent structure and tone. One-on-ones. Clear expectations, concise discussions, constant meetings, consistent support. Actionable framework for leaders. Create a weekly communication schedule. Include updates, check-ins, and written summaries. Use a communication checklist for clarity and conciseness. Before speaking, ask yourself, what is the goal of this message? Is my point clear? Can I shorten this without losing meaning? Review your messaging for consistency. Look at past communication to ensure you are not contradicting yourself. Establish communication rituals. Predictable patterns make your communication more reliable. Ask for feedback. Your team will tell you whether your communication is clear, concise, constant, and consistent. Good communication is not accidental, it's intentional. Final thoughts. Communication is the foundation of leadership in the video game industry. It connects disciplines, it aligns teams, it builds trust, it reduces stress, it empowers people to do their best work. Over the years, I learned that communication is not something you occasionally focus on. It is something you practice every day. Clear communication ensures your message is understood. Concise communication ensures your message is digestible. Constant communication ensures your team stays connected. Consistent communication ensures your leadership is trusted. When leaders apply these 4 pillars, teams feel supported, confident, and inspired. They know where they are going, why it matters, and how to get there. They feel safe speaking up, asking questions, and offering ideas. They feel aligned with the mission and united with each other. As a leader in the video game industry, you will never regret communicating more thoughtfully. You will never regret making your message clearer, shorter, more frequent, and more consistent. Your team will feel the difference, your studio will feel the difference, and you will feel yourself becoming a stronger, steadier, and more effective leader. Communication is not just a part of leadership. Communication is leadership. Practice the 4 C's. Refine them, revisit them, and your team will grow with you. All right, and that's this week's episode of the Press Start Leadership Podcast. Thanks for listening, and as always, thanks for being awesome. Oh, hi. And the episode's over, but thanks for sticking around till the end. Be sure to check out more episodes in the playlist and new episodes every week on Monday. Follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Don't forget to leave a review. Thanks again for being awesome.